Amidst cluttered dinner plates, a heavy silence smothers the room, each family member lost in their own world. Faith, engrossed in her phone, embodies teenage apathy, oblivious to the brewing storm. Dad's weary posture speaks volumes of unspoken burdens and exhaustion. Mom's overwhelmed expression hints at the weight she carries, the silent glue holding the family together. The unresolved tension hangs in the air, a palpable force threatening to shatter the fragile family dynamic. "Everyone, can we talk for a moment?" Mom's voice echoes. "It feels like our home has been off lately." Mom continues, her words painting a picture of unease. Faith stands in an unknown place, her expression distant, almost detached. Her eyes betray a subtle disinterest, a mind elsewhere occupied. A flicker of curiosity crosses her face as she barely acknowledges the speaker. "Off how?" Faith asks, her voice soft, yet laced with a hint of challenge. Dad stands amidst the disarray, his face a roadmap of worry, each line etched deep with growing concern. He gestures around the room, a silent plea for unity hanging in the air, heavy with unspoken anxieties. His voice cracks with emotion as he laments. "We're arguing more. No one's praying together. Everyone's in separate corners of the house, and not even coming to the table with joy anymore," he says, his eyes filled with despair. Faith's hand trembles slightly as she slowly puts her phone down. A subtle flicker of understanding begins to dawn in Faith's eyes. A new awareness washes over Faith, her expression shifting subtly. The weight of unspoken words hangs heavy in the air. Faith's expression darkens, her senses alert to the oppressive atmosphere. "Yeah, I feel it too," Faith says, her voice barely a whisper in the suffocating silence. Faith's gaze hardens, a silent resolve taking shape. She glances around, eyes darting nervously as she tries to pinpoint the source of the disquiet. "It's like the house is heavy," Faith adds, the words hanging in the air like a tangible presence. Sunlight barely pierces the curtains in an ordinary room, casting long shadows that dance with the dust. The air hangs heavy, thick with unspoken tension, a silent storm brewing beneath the surface. A noticeable sense of unease fills the room, settling like a shroud over the mundane setting. "That's why we need a spiritual reset," Mom says, her voice cutting through the oppressive silence. Her words hang in the air, a stark declaration that shatters the fragile peace of the morning. The figure stands motionless, hands clasped behind their back, as the heavy air vibrates with unspoken anticipation. A voice breaks the silence, a question echoing in the emptiness. "Faith, like restarting a phone when it freezes?" Sunlight bathes the cozy living room, yet a heavy silence blankets the space. Dust motes float, undisturbed in the golden light. At the worn kitchen table, Anna, a mother in her 40s, sits with a notepad, her face etched with weariness and resolve. Anna's voice breaks the silence, a list of weary observations echoing through the still room. "Here are signs we need a reset. We argue more than we laugh," she says, her voice laced with a hint of sorrow. "Everyone feels stressed or drained. Our home feels spiritually dry," Anna continues, her words hanging in the air. Her eyes, pools of deep thought, begin to reflect a burgeoning understanding. A slow, almost imperceptible nod acknowledges the weight of her mother's words. Faith's resolve hardens, a silent promise forming within her gaze. The room seems to hold its breath, awaiting the next turn. Dad's voice breaks the silence, offering a glimmer of hope amid despair. "But the good news? God loves restoring families," Dad says, his words echoing in the quiet. Dad quotes Isaiah 40-31. "Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength," a promise of hope and renewal. Sunlight floods the modest living room, dust motes swirling in golden beams, illuminating quiet hope. Mom sits on the worn sofa, her hands clasped tight, a silent story of exhaustion etched on her face. Her gaze is fixed, filled with a mix of longing and weary determination. A fragile hope flickers in her eyes, a silent prayer for renewal. Renew means start again. God can restart the peace in this home, Mom whispers, her voice trembling with faith. In the dining room, Mom rises abruptly, a silent signal hanging in the air. With a flick of the switch, darkness descends, plunging the room into shadow. Dad's match flares to life, a tiny beacon against the encroaching night. A single candle casts a warm, flickering glow, banishing the darkness. Face is bathed in soft light. The room transforms into a haven of gentle shadows. Serenity permeates every corner, a quiet stillness that promises peace or perhaps hides a storm. Faith stands amidst the calm, her silhouette framed by the gentle illumination. A subtle shift in the air, a barely perceptible tremor that hints at something unseen. A subtle shift in the air, a barely perceptible tremor that hints at something unseen. It's peaceful, Faith whispers, her voice barely audible above the silence. The light deepens, shadows lengthen, as if the space itself is responding to her words. In the soft glow of a single candle, Dad and Faith hold hands, their faces etched with hope and vulnerability. Mom's voice, gentle yet firm, breaks the silence. This light represents our reset, a fresh start. Faith's earnest wish echoes in the room. I want God to restore fun. I miss us laughing, Dad adds, his voice thick with emotion. I want God to restore peace, real peace. Together, they voice their prayer. Lord, reset our home with your peace. A shared sentiment fills the room, a sense of lightness, of burdens lifted, as a new chapter begins.